Good evening, everyone. I hope you guys are doing well. I was just adjusting my microphone, so just let me go ahead and, or just confirm with me, if you will, if you can sound me okay. It looks like the signal's good. But I think I was doing some audio configurations earlier last week, so that could have changed. So it'd be great if you guys could tell me. So I'll just go ahead and wait until you do tell me. Or I guess I could check. Okay, good. Of course, confirmed first. As always, my wonderful professor, you look and sound great. Okay, good, awesome, wonderful. Thank you guys for that. It's kind of tiring, or tiresome, or probably annoying that I ask every week. But I'd rather ask and be sure than stream for 2 hours only to see publicly that I was on mute or the sound wasn't okay or anything like that. Hello, Incarnate. Welcome back. And let me go ahead and welcome the chat, and I think we'll just take it away. Let me go ahead also and see if, everything is working. And I actually did hear myself on the YouTube channel, so that is good. That is good. So who do we have? We have Team Ghost Planet, a new avatar. See you guys soon. Welcome, Team Ghost Planet. Dr. Y with his $100,000 question. And you probably noticed that I pinned it because it's a really good answer to a good question. And Professor also confirms this. What a great question. It used to be such an easy answer. Now, not so much. Looking forward to your wisdom, my shield maiden. And actually, I would appreciate your input because you are a college professor. So, you have your side of the, well, not really the liberal arts side, but you do have your teaching experience, and you know what the admin want students to do and get away with and stuff like that. And Big Al, our friend Big Al is here. Have a great stream, Sound Graver. Thank you, Big Al. I hope you are well today. I'm looking forward to seeing you on the prof stream tomorrow for the book study, the EU book study. Gigawatt says, are you going to be working in an industry where you can easily pay off your loan? That is also a great follow-up question to the question. Excellent job. Excellent job. And then we also have Incarnate, and there we go. There we go. So let me grab a swig of water. It's very hot and humid today. It was like 90 or 92, and it felt like if you go outside, it felt like you were just, stepping out of a shower. It was crazy humid today. So we'll just cut to the chase. I actually do expect this to be a straightforward discussion, so it could be a really short stream. So of course your input is always encouraged, but that's kind of not a contradiction. I don't know. I see a spider on my door. Can I take care of it? Let me 1 second. See, it's a hot day. I'll be right back. 1 second. I'm back. It wasn't big, but it was medium size, but it was kind of gnarly looking, and it looked like it was about to, jump on me. Yeah, exactly. The return of Shelob. Yeah, actually, bugs are a thing when living in the countryside. That is for sure. So anyway, where were we? So let's go ahead and get started. So I feel like, yeah, the topic is, should you get a music degree or art degree? I would actually link this to all liberal arts degrees. As it's been with my experience in music, I definitely know much more in the music school world. But I would say this is just true in general. It might be true with degrees in general, but I'm not going to say anything of engineering or science and medicine or whatever the case is over in those fields. I want to speak regarding my specialty, which is in music. Now, I'm sure all of you guys know, if you've been around, hanging around me and my channel for quite some time, you know that I have a music degree. In fact, I have 3 music degrees. So I'm actually asking honestly, being intellectually sincere and honest about this discussion because I was a student. I was in the higher education world for, I would say, a good 16 years. Is that right? Oh, no. Oh, man, I didn't do the math. No, that would have been too long. No, actually, it was more 7 or 8 years in the higher education. So getting a music degree, was part of my experience. So if you want to know the specifics, I have 2 bachelors of music in music composition and music education. And I thought I was going to stop right there, but I really wanted to pursue music composition even further. So I ended up going out of state and getting my master's in music composition. So I'm not speaking with any particular bias. I'm not partial to saying yes because I did get a music degree. If you've seen my description of this stream, I do have one reason. I do have one reason why you should get a music degree or a liberal arts degree. But then I have many reasons why you should not get a music degree or a liberal arts degree. So let's go ahead and get started. But let's welcome also Private Eye. Welcome to you, Private Eye, and Zootopia, and Daniel Heron. Greetings to you, awesome Daniel Heron. I hope Soundtracks with Birdman is doing okay. I was so busy today, I couldn't even watch your stream, but I'm sure you guys had a lot of fun just hanging out. So that is the chat. So should you get a music degree or should you get an art degree? In general, should you get a liberal arts degree? Well, there is one reason to get a music degree. And that is if you want to be a public school teacher. If you want to teach in the general level of education, K through 5, and then also middle school and high school, you do need a music education degree and your certification, if it's still the same system that I had come out of about 10 or 15 years ago. It wasn't 10 or 15 years ago. Seems like it. Let's just say 10 years ago because I can't do the math in my head. So that is the one reason to get a music degree. Now, a music degree of any kind, if you want to think, okay, well, what if you just branched out of the music education? What if it's not just teaching, a band class in high school or an orchestra class in middle school? Is it worth getting a music degree in music history, in music theory, in jazz studies, in choral conducting, in performance? I would say yes, but it goes back to that one main reason and expanded. What am I trying to say? You do need a music degree. You only need a music degree for teaching higher education in those fields. So if you want to be a music theory professor, obviously you need a doctorate in music theory. If you want to be a wind ensemble director at a college, you would need a doctorate in wind, I think wind conducting or instrumental conducting. I don't know how it's categorized, but basically that's it. That's it as far as getting a music degree. If you want to teach in the public education, if you want to teach music in the public education, K through 12, or if you want to teach in the higher education, whatever specialty, you do need to work your way up to the doctorate degree. Get your dissertation done, take your exams, get your doctorate, and then you can teach at any level. And you probably would prefer to teach at a higher education. Now, some positions, some adjunct positions or some instructor positions only require a master's degree. So I do have a master's, but I never really got a response to teaching college instruction like a community college, even though I am qualified to teach at a community college. Never have, though. And I don't intend on teaching in that kind of setting, in that institution. But that's it. That's pretty much your only reason for pursuing a music degree of any kind. That is, if you want to teach music in the higher education or the public education. All that said, there are several reasons why you shouldn't get a music degree. And I'm going to go with the sphere that is your music, your craftsmanship, your musical abilities. So we'll start with those reasons. And by the way, this is off the top of my head, so hopefully I'm making sense. And we'll see what the chat is saying in the future, or in the near future. So, why should you skip pursuing a music degree? Let's say you want to be a musician, or let's say you are in music. Let's say you've just gotten out of high school, or you've been in music for some time. You have a main instrument, or you are a vocalist, or you want to pursue composition, or maybe you're just wanting to be a keyboard player in a band, and you're thinking to yourself, maybe it's worthwhile getting a music degree. Well, I actually want to give you some, preemptive advice, on deciding maybe it's not best for you. The first major reason is that everything you learn in your 4-year education, your 4-year music education in college, every course you take, I checked. I even have the list of courses just in case you're curious. Everything that you learn in college, you actually can learn very efficiently, very well on YouTube. Teachers, musicians, professionals, they have very good, very clean, very nice content on teaching you the basics, on teaching you how to analyze a series of jazz chords, how to conduct, really? I mean, conducting orchestra, how to do music theory, what is important in music history, in Western music history, all of those things that take you up to 2 to 3 years of college education, you can learn on your own on YouTube. There is nothing that a music professor can teach you that someone on YouTube cannot. They can. In fact, I'll just plug away my recent video. I did a very short video on how to read music notes on a musical staff. It was I think it's under 7 minutes, and there's actually a minute promo inserted right in front of it. And then I just had visuals, and I recorded a script, and people can learn how to read notes on a music staff, both for treble and bass, with a 5.5, 6-minute video. It's very easy to get all this kind of information. It's very easy to know why Mozart was important. In fact, you might even get some very good insight from someone who really loves Mozart than from someone who teaches with a tenured position who has to teach about the importance of Mozart or the importance of classical music. Someone who's very, very passionate, who would not be paid a salary to put that up on YouTube. You would actually have probably more valuable input with topics like that. So, disregarding the general education you would need, it's like 60 credits or something to get general education, language, mathematics, science. Getting that out of the way, not even considering that, you would need a good 2.5 to 3 years of college education, specifically in music. And everything that is taught in music, that is taught in the university music school, can be found on YouTube with high quality videos. And you could cross-reference different videos, or not cross-reference, I don't think that's the right word. But you can see all of the important things to know in music, and you can get this information for free. Not to mention that there are websites. There are websites devoted to music theory. There are websites where you can just go on a website. Maybe you pay for a subscription. Maybe you pay for like a monthly subscription for activities to get your ear training chops. There's software for ear training. There's software for music theory, but there are also free music theory sites or sites that would grant you free information that pretty much covers the first 2 years of music theory that you would learn in college anyway. Even the electives, even the class electives like Schenkerian analysis, a lot more of in-depth topics like orchestration, how to orchestrate for a 12-piece ensemble or something like that. The intricate details and the things you need to know about orchestration or even about music engraving. Yes, music engraving is a thing. It's actually writing the notes down on and how to write the notes down on the staff paper, how to draw in a treble clef, how to draw a bass clef. That's also found online. So to sum it or to bring this back, to wrap this up, the 2 to 3 years of music courses that you see are required for a 4-year degree, a 4-year program. You can learn all of that, all of that pretty much for free on YouTube. So that's the first thing. It's free information and it's valuable information. Sorry, music professors, I hate to say this, but the stuff you teach is available everywhere. At the very least, you can also just hire a music instructor. Someone maybe who's a musician. Maybe you can hire a music teacher who specializes in guitar but is really good with understanding keyboard and music theory. And then you pay that instructor for private one-on-one sessions for like a year and then have an in-depth understanding of theory and keyboard and you're satisfied. So at the very least, yeah, you would be paying that instructor, but it would be, I would say, a lot more effective relationship. It would be a lot more, I would say, a more valuable relationship. So that's the first reason. I would say that's the biggest reason. Everything you would learn in music school that would cost you thousands of dollars. Everything you would learn in music school, you can actually have access to on things like YouTube, most of it being free. Maybe you would sign up to a Patreon, of someone who can really give you in-depth tutorials that take a long time to make and all of that. But a Patreon fee, versus thousands of dollars of college tuition, what are you going to decide? The second thing is, this was not the case with me because I love learning about music. I would say there maybe was one or two classes that I particularly did not want to spend time in. I know one was choir because the music that they decided for us to sing was not good. Well, no, that's not true. Some of the music was good, but I was required to sing in a choir, and that was one summer quarter. That was it was like dental work for me. What was another? I'm sure there was an elective, a music elective that I had to take that I didn't care to take. Like, okay, here we go again. But besides one or two classes, I actually really did enjoy things like music theory or music history, on top of violin lessons and things like counterpoint and orchestration and stuff like that. I liked being a music student. I actually, in some way, I didn't even want to go. I didn't even want to leave the school because I liked being a student so much. But that's just me. I'm a student. I'm a perpetual student. I'm a lifelong student. I will always, well, I'm not technically a student. I'm not legally a student. I can't ask for student discounts or whatever. But I'm a lifelong learner. I will always want to learn. So learning different things was not always a problem for me. But I had friends. I had so many friends in the music school pursuing. They were usually music performance majors. They hated music theory. They hated music history. They hated taking piano. They hated joining the orchestra. There were many classes. I had a lot of music major friends who just despised classes they were required to take. So that's another thing to think about if you were thinking about getting a music degree. And again, this applies to art and the general liberal arts. But if you were even thinking about getting a music degree, just know that on top of paying a huge sum of money for tuition or getting loans out and accruing debt over time, there will be many classes that you have to take that you don't want to take. So why not have your own personal education? Why don't you just, have your own custom-made educational program? Let's say let's say you're a pianist who wants to get better at piano. Invest in high quality not violin, piano instruction. I'm a violin teacher. Invest, a few $100s even a month. That's a lot of money. But, $200 to $300 a month to get like a top tier piano instructor, someone who knows piano, who could really whip you into shape and playing piano for the better. Do that on top of getting a piano performance. And then spend your whole time in piano. And then maybe you start, getting an interest in music history in, Baroque style. Maybe you develop this keen interest in piano models or piano replicas of the 1600s, 1700s, and 1800s. Maybe you develop a very keen interest in that specific time in Western history of piano literature. But you don't have to study 20th century if you don't want to. You don't have to study the Renaissance if you don't want to. You don't have to study early classical or late romantic, impressionistic music. You can actually kind of custom define and have a custom made ready to use educational program involving your love of piano and wanting to get better on piano. You don't need a music degree for that. Just pay a really good pianist saying, hey, I know you're booked with students or performances, but I'll pay you like double what you would charge because I think you're terrific and I would love to study under you and just meet with you just once a month. It really doesn't take much more than that if you're really wanting to improve your musical abilities and sensibilities. So it was very different with me. I used to think, well, everyone loves everything in music because it's music. I loved everything except choir. I didn't like choir. um, I um, I really did enjoy most of my classes, but that was not true of a lot of people. A lot of people just hated every single ear training and music theory class, and they didn't like me either because they knew I enjoyed it and they knew I was really good at it. I would this is just a side note, music actually, everyone has to take ear training, 2 years of ear training, if I remember correctly, and so the instructor would play random notes on the keyboard or the piano. Sometimes they would play intervals, sometimes they would play an entire melody, and you'd have to dictate exactly what they played without seeing the piano keys. You'd have to dictate the notes, the rhythm, the meter, the groupings, everything. And I just had a knack for that because I had a really good ear and I also have perfect pitch. And I also have synesthesia too. So I would just be the instructor would just be doing it a couple times, and then by the last problem, he would go up to 4 or 5 times. By the first or 1 or 2 times, I would drop my pencil on the desk and I would just go like, I have to use the restroom. I have to get a drink of water. And I would hear groaning from my friends. They're like, whatever, Michelle she can do it. It's so hard for us. But I was natural at that. Uh, all that to say is people are they might have a specialty they like. Maybe they like singing, but they don't like piano. But you have to take all of it to have a music education, a higher music education. To get a music degree, you have to be prepared to take several classes that you don't like. So again, why would you? If really only getting a degree is worth it for teachers in the higher education or the general education, you know, I would say why bother? Why bother? Why not just be self-taught or pay for instruction, on your own terms with your own budget? All right. What else? What else? What else involving music? Ah, yes. Okay. So, we talked about having, you know, all of this information on YouTube and all these websites devoted to these very specific courses, very specific topics that you would learn in the music school. And why pay thousands and thousands of dollars for the same courses that you can learn, probably even learn better on a platform like YouTube? That's one thing. Second thing is you won't like all the classes that you have to take, that you're required to take for the music degree. Now, I would say this has come to be the case for me, understanding this in the last couple of years. And that is music schools don't teach you everything you need to know to producing music or to perform music. So let's actually just, stick with producing music. Let's, you know, let's say you need to produce music prolifically. You're a musician, you're recording with a band, maybe you want to release some albums, maybe you want to produce some music videos for YouTube. Well, I've got to say that if you want to produce music prolifically and professionally, you ain't learning anything in the music school. The music school, the university setting, not the 4-year bachelor's, not the 2-year master's, not the 3-year doctorate, whatever it is. None of those degrees will teach you how to professionally perform and produce music. I will say professionally perform. I'm going to say that very carefully. I probably should even mention that before I get sidetracked a little bit. They teach you, if you wanted to be a professional saxophonist, for instance, they teach you how to get the chops and how to get the technique. But as far as performing, like gigs and stuff like that, they don't really teach you how to do that. You'll get a doctorate in flute performance, and you're like, okay, where are my gigs? Well, I gotta be in an orchestra. Well, getting a flute gig in an orchestra is really hard because city orchestras, not every city has an orchestra, and the cities that do have these symphonies, are hiring maybe, well, they an average symphony will only have, between 2 and maybe 4, depending on the literature, maybe 4 flute players. So that's 4 positions per symphony, if you're lucky. And usually musicians hold their chairs, their seats, you know, their orchestra seats. Like I am the principal flautist or flute player. I don't know what it is. And I'm gonna hold that to my grave. Like the clarinet, like if you're a clarinet player, you probably won't have a chance at the symphony because there are only, between 1 and 3 clarinet players in a symphony. It's just not it's just not reasonable to think. It's not viable to think that you have a guarantee, a job guaranteed after your performance degree. So they teach you how to perform, but they don't teach you how to get the gig. You don't need a music degree, by the way, to learn how to network and get gigs. You can go to the bar, go to open mic, give people business cards, talk to restaurants, different things like that. You don't need a music degree to get gigs. So that was a sidebar. So professionally perform, yeah, you can perform as a master of your instrument, but to get gigs, no. You don't need a music degree, not a doctorate, not anything. You don't need a bachelor's in violin performance. I have mastered the violin, and I never got a violin performance degree. So there's that. Now let's talk about producing music. So we were talking about performing music. Now let's talk about producing music. They don't teach you. The colleges do not teach you to perform, or to produce prolifically. They don't teach you how to make an album, how to record, how to do some general recording in a digital audio workstation, how to mix in a digital audio workstation, how to contact a mastering engineer, what would be a competitive price for mastering tracks or mixing tracks. They don't teach you how to contact very important people. It's like, okay, I've got a composition degree, and it was actually working outside the university, composing all the time, and then seeing what tracks would work in the public setting, what tracks would work on Spotify, what tracks would work in the form of an album or in the form of a single track, you know? So even producing music, whether it's recording, composing, or both, a little bit of mixing, or hiring a mixing engineer or mastering engineer, the universities do not teach you how to do that. In fact, not every project, especially not the recent ones that I had listened to, but I have heard albums of professors, collaborative experiences, collaborative groups of these ensembles and electronics and stuff like that. I have heard some of their albums, and it's really poor quality. They don't teach you the value of production quality at the universities. Even I'm going to say this, I'll be so bold to say, as even an engineering or an audio production degree like you would hear with Berkeley. Yeah, you can learn very, very important stuff, but just because you have an audio production degree doesn't mean you're instantly going to go on Spotify and have a good sounding album or single track. There was one person I knew who had gotten a production degree, and then I was listening to their music, and I could hear the potential, but it was not mixed well, and it was not mastered well. It wasn't recorded well, that the mic placement wasn't right. And I don't know anything about mic placement, but I could tell that it was a mic placement issue. The mixing did not work. I'm sure some instructor, some half-brain instructor told this person, "Hey, you should pan hard left and hard right for this." And it was awful. It was awful. So even a specialty, like something very specific like audio production, will not guarantee that you know how to produce professionally, getting that quality sound, and then also producing prolifically. So, one of the things that I aim to do, especially in the next 2, 3 to 5 years in my life, is to see how much music I can release, at one time. Like, how much music can I release in a summer or in the fall, or the first of the year? And it's there have been hurdles, and I'm trying to find my workflow and my system and all that. But producing music frequently is important. Now, the thing with my professors that I've had, professors that have been around, they've taught at different places, they've uh, they have produced software. They've produced pretty cool software. I would go to their websites. I'll go to their websites from time to time, like once every 9 to 12 months, just to see how they're doing. And my goodness, like, most of these professors won't produce anything for 3 to 5 years. In fact, one, unless it was an outdated website, this professor, he hadn't released anything since 2012. I'm like, "Are you kidding me? Why are you a composition professor not composing music? Or if you are composing music, why aren't you releasing it? Why aren't you releasing it?" It's like, well, don't keep it hidden. But I think really what it could be a busy schedule. Maybe they have, between work and family, it's just not in their interest. But I would say it was never encouraged. It was never encouraged. It was never encouraged to sit down with me and say, "Okay, Sound Engraver is your future name." One of my last conversations with a professor, he said, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "Well, I don't know what I want to do, but I do want to pursue electronic music in some capacity, not in the university setting, but in some way. I love electronic music. I just want to. I don't know what I want to do with it, but I know I want to do it." And maybe I just forgot what he said. But I certainly don't remember him saying, "Well, you need to learn how to produce music and put it out there on Spotify." He never said that. None of my professors ever said that. Like, they never said, "Well, I can get you started with contacting a mixing engineer and a mastering engineer. Maybe he or she can give you some, comparable rates, some competitive rates, and or maybe this is the budget you should expect for, getting your music, out there and all that. Oh, maybe you should really consider. This was my experience, by the way, outside the music setting. I was in North Carolina about 4 or 5 years ago. I had a friend, he was a master at mixing and mastering for large scale music projects. You're talking about like church orchestras, like mega church orchestras, uh, bands, lots of different bands, rock bands, country bands. He knew how to get it just crisp, wonderful. And I said, "Oh, you're a mastering engineer. Okay, what's your rate?" And he said, I said, "I have these 8 tracks." I think it was 8 tracks, I can't remember. And he said, "Oh, this is my rate." And it was pretty steep. I think, well, depending on the music you produce, it might be a good price, but I think he was charging me $500. And, gosh, I feel like it's less than 8 tracks. But, anyway, he charged me $500 for mastering my composition. Now, two issues I discovered. One was I did not know back then how to prep the tracks, how to get it really clean, how to get the instruments as clean as I wanted, how to get the gain right, how to get everything lined up and stuff like that. And then I would send it to him, very just not clean tracks at all, very, very muddy. And then he gave me back the mastering track, and it wasn't there was no feedback. It was just, "Oh, here's the master." And I wasn't satisfied. $500. I was like, "This doesn't sound right." And then I found another guy who, I can't remember. He must have contacted me because I wasn't looking for anyone at the time. And he's been my mastering engineer ever since. And all the music that you do here on Spotify or on my website, I do think I have improved even since 2019, since I started releasing music on a frequent basis. I think I have improved things like bass and space and percussion and stuff like that. I have improved for sure. But he's been with me since 2019 and he knows how to master electronic music. See, my other friend, he knew how to master like a big country band feel or a church orchestra, like a big, you know what I'm talking about, like that kind of genre, that production feel. He knew how to master that both for live concerts and CDs, like recordings. He didn't know what to do with electronic music because electronic music was not his specialty. So a professor in the music school would not give you that information. They would not say, "Oh, well, you need to think about getting a mixing and mastering engineer. Maybe they can do both." But some mastering engineers don't know how to work with electronic nuances. Some do bluegrass really well, but it's not the same as electronic music. And I understand that. I mean, even some of the movie productions that I hear, I'm like, for electronic scores, I'm like, they don't have the right ear. Whoever is mastering for Tenet, for instance, does not have the ear needed to understand the intricacies and the detail of electronic music. Tenet was a bad example because that music is, people think it's great. I don't think it's great. But anyway, one sec. So yeah, so professors, in the music school, they don't tell you how to get good quality sound. They don't tell you how to get a good recording. They don't tell you how to contact people for mixing and mastering. They don't tell you how to produce for the world at large. That was an incorrect way of using that phrase. Yeah, and I think, and now I think this is more of a philosophical reason. There's a philosophical sentiment behind that. Music professors and music composition students are very inward when it comes to producing and composing music. composing and producing music. They're very much for the now moment, the now experience where you have to go to the concert hall. It's like, oh, well, if you don't go to the concert hall, you're going to miss out. This is just a one-time event. And even for things like recording, it's like low quality recording is just a matter of expression. It's or manner of expression. This is how I express myself. The low quality recording of all this stuff. They're very, I would say, music professors and music students, at least from my experience in the United States, both in the Northwest and in the Midwest, they're very private. They're like, well, this music is just for me. Okay, if you enjoy it, that's great. But this is my expression. This is my art. And it really doesn't matter if 3 people listen to it. That is more meaningful than 3,000 people. So there is a little bit of a philosophy there where they kind of their audience, the audience they want are pretty much people who are unorthodox, like people who are not mainstream, who don't listen to mainstream music or even snub mainstream music. I'm not saying mainstream music is good quality. Okay, I'm not. I would say it's give or take. It depends on who's composing what, who is writing this song, and all that. But there is an attitude. There's kind of a snooty attitude, like I'm looking down, and they'll kind of think like the masses, the general public is beneath them. It's a very kind of arrogant, conceited attitude. So I'm not saying this of my professors that I had, but they're very. I think that is one reason why they are so private about their music, and why it's not emphasized. Why professors don't stress the importance of producing music and releasing it into the world. And how do you do that? And how do you do that with how do you release good quality music? Well, you know what? From my experience, it's just been practice. It's just been practicing every day and working my tail off hour after hour, getting that final project right. And you don't need a music degree for that. The same will be true for art. The same will be true for an English composition degree. You can't get an English writing or a composition degree or creative writing degree. I don't know. I don't. You can't get a degree like that and then expect that you're a writer. Well, I took 4 years of understanding and analyzing this comprehensive literature, with deep meaning and ambiguous symbolism and stuff like that. It's like that doesn't mean you're a writer. Like you're a writer when you write every day and get better at your craft. And you don't need a writing degree to get a book out there. But and I would say this, Prof, my professor, do professors teach you how to contact an editor or discuss the importance of proofreading or something like that? I can't imagine so, but at least with music, it was that way. It was like they taught you all the stuff you can learn now on YouTube. They taught you all the music history and music theory you could ever know, ever want to know. And that was that. That was it. I really wish my professors, especially in Wisconsin, I wish they knew I had an interest in electronic music, but they didn't see. And I'm not going to blame them, but I don't think they saw the importance of getting the music out there. In fact, actually, one of the professors. Okay, I will say this. Bill, I remember Bill. He was great. He really cared for me. It was like a father. He was kind of like an academic father figure. He was not an academic. He kind of reminds. The best way I can describe Bill is he's kind of like Mark Hamill. He has that look about him, that personality. He really was not an academic. He knew his stuff. Don't get me wrong, but he wasn't an academic. But he was really the one professor I remember really caring for me as a person. But now I understand. I'm realizing this in real time in public for you right now. his care for me, his concern for me wasn't that I wanted to, he didn't see me a musician or a composer in the outside world. He actually wanted me to become a professor because there was a time, there were like a year or 2 years after getting my master's, I would email him saying, "Hey, I need a letter of recommendation because I was applying for community colleges, never got the jobs, never got an acceptance or whatever or an interview." But he's like, "Oh yeah, absolutely. I want you to do this." So he thought he wanted something else for me. Now that I think about it, but if he knew where I was going, I think he would have supported me as well. So I think I've said everything I've needed to say, impromptu. And we'll get to the chat. Thank you guys so much. And if I'm sure there are going to be more things that you bring to the table, and we can discuss what you guys think. Oh, more people. Jigawa, did I welcome you? Vessel of Amala. I'm missing someone. There's someone else. Final Fantasy fan. Uh, 12 says, "Sorry, I'm late." You're always late. No, I'm just kidding. All right. All right, all right, all right. So let's go ahead and pull up some comments. All right. Yes, I have 3 degrees. I mean, it's actually not as impressive as it sounds. My 2 bachelors were both music, and so the coursework actually crossed over quite a lot. I had to do some extra stuff for music education and some extra stuff for composition, but it wasn't that uh, it wasn't that much. But it did take me 5 years to complete, and then my master's took me another 2 years. I'm a music major, not a math teacher. Yeah, I know. That's kinda like, I didn't sign up for this class. Like, I didn't sign up for this, and you're taking a class you don't like. Private Eye says, "The only person I know who got a degree on musical arts is my master, and he will literally never shut up if I ask him about any subject about music." Yeah, we can definitely, ramble if we're given the opportunity. I'm a doctor, not a liberal arts teacher. Is this a reference that I'm missing? It probably is. Nice. You can learn a good deal by watching DKC soundtrack breakdowns on YouTube. I wonder who did that. Yeah, actually, thanks for watching those, Incarnate. More Donkey Kong soundtrack analysis to come. They do take a long time to make, and I just haven't had the time. I should finish at least 2 more of those this summer. I could put it together. And then actually, I will do the whole trilogy. I do plan on doing the whole trilogy with score and analysis and all of that. Um, and then if that is popular and if it's not too much work, and if it starts getting views, I would like to do more video game soundtrack analyses and scores, starting with Final Fantasy. I think that's a good place to start. Yeah, I probably wouldn't recommend Amadeus if you want to learn about the importance of Mozart. I mean, yeah, I guess. I guess. Yeah, interesting. Evening to you. But are the YT videos or YouTube videos well-rounded? I'm assured colleges are the only place where such an ambiguous but crucial development can occur. Um, I mean, before I would give a complete answer, I guess I would have to. No, I was about to say, I guess I would have to like go onto these videos and see for myself. But I have seen videos. Actually, there are classical music channels out there like uh, Inside the Score. Daniel Heron knows that channel pretty well. He will talk about the history of someone in such fine detail, and it's beautiful. It's inspiring. he does it in such an inspirational way and in an accurate way, a factual way too. And that's fine. Like if you wanted to learn about someone, a historical figure, there are YouTube videos or even just websites. It doesn't even have to be on YouTube. The reason why I say YouTube is because I have found really good educational videos on these specific music topics. You know, YouTube doesn't really understand how YouTube works, but I know how YouTube works. People don't want the celebrities on YouTube. They don't want the news on YouTube. They want educational videos or entertaining videos. That's it. They want education and entertainment. That is all YouTube really needs to serve the world. You know, give educators who have a knack for speaking and video editing and script writing and all of that. Give the YouTubers that voice to do that. You know, incentivize them to do that, and they can really come up with some very informative, very educational, and also entertaining, very entertaining content. And I would say, just from my memory, okay, I will say this too. Just from my memory and of my music education experience, there is in-depth analysis and assessment of these topics, and then there's depth. And what do I mean by that? Um, you can go too obscure. Professors, especially tenured professors, they can be charismatic and they can have some charm in their personality. I love all my professors. They were all great. I'm sure, you know, going to a social gathering with them would be fun. Um, but they could stretch stuff. You know, they could stretch things and see things that weren't really there. I actually didn't see this so much with my professors as much as the scholarly writings that they assigned us to read and to analyze, especially music theory journals. If you want to see the most far-fetched scholarly writings out there, publications, mind you, there would be music theorists out there that would talk about stuff that, first of all, is their opinion. It's not mathematical or anything adhering to concrete things in music theory. The second thing is they were terrible writers. I mean, I was a terrible writer at the time too, and I knew it was terrible writing. It's like, you could have said all of this in 4 sentences, but you had to be sentimental and say it in 4 paragraphs. So I would prefer the YouTube videos. um, so I don't know. Now again, getting a college degree is important if you want to teach at the higher level. So if you want to be a music professor yourself, you do have to get a music degree. All right. Did someone in the chat get an etymology degree? That's pretty cool. I had a grandfather who, if etymology is the thing I'm thinking, he collected moths, like petrified moths. They weren't alive, but I remember I was a little kid, and who showed it to me? I think it was my grandpa. He said, your great grandpa Hunter. Um, you want to see something?" I'm like, "Sure." And then he would open a closet in this guest room where great grandpa Hunter stayed, and he would pull out these encased petrified moths, and some of these moths were huge. And I think I, none of my family is watching my stream right now, but I think he studied etymology. Etymology. All right. Um, so are you saying you love ear training or lobe ear training? I lobe ear training. So you are unbreakable to my Mr. Glass. I can't match a pitch to save my life. Seriously, I'd be dead if my perfect pitch perfect friend didn't intervene. Yeah, some people have it and some people don't. And I'm not saying like I was 100% all the time. Sometimes I would hear an interval that wasn't there. Excuse me. Yeah, but I do like that I have it. Actually, just an aside, if you guys are curious, um, I didn't want to say it unless it was brought up, unless someone asked about it. But my video, my music notes video that I had just published, you'll see, if you do watch it for the 5 minutes that I talk about it, you'll see my letters of the music alphabet, A B C D E F G, as the notes are sounding, and I choose very specific colors for that. They're not exactly, but they are. These colors that I chose for these letters are a very close representation of my synesthesia. So, like, if someone, not that they would, I would be very, very surprised unless it was like some random person years down the road say, "Hey, what was up with those random colors? Like, you have two blues. Why don't you have an orange? Why did you have a dark blue and then a lighter blue?" My purpose for that was those letters on my music video are my synesthesia letters. The colors, I should say. The colors for my synesthesia. I used to know the adjective synesthetic. Yeah, synesthetic. Um, those are my synesthetic colors. So not exactly the shade or tone for some of them, but the closest representation I could get for the software I had. I was like, they were all going to be blue or red. I'm like, well, I have colors. I have color options, so I'll just pick those specific colors for what I see. All right. Dr. Y says, I've been debating for years whether or not going to art college is a good idea. Now I feel like I'm too old. Well, I wouldn't dissuade anyone from doing anything they didn't want to pursue. So if I even had a couple friends in their 50s at the time who pursued getting a college degree because it was self-enrichment. Now I will say, if it is a personal pursuit that would fulfill you, I would say this: have the money up front. Just have the money up front. Don't borrow money. It's just not worth it. It's just not worth it. And I would say too that my final point. It's a touchy subject, but I'll go ahead and say this: the college education, especially the music education, what I have been seeing as of late, since 2020, since the pandemic, since all this political upheaval, um, my music school in particular, I don't know about Milwaukee, but my music school in Washington in particular is taking a political stance, and it's not good. Taking a political stance in things like mask mandates that, would have to require you to go to a very large concert hall. I'm sure you can find a seat where you wouldn't even need to be 20 feet from the next person. So you can't enjoy, you know, uh, you know, looking at, watching the concert because you're gonna fog up your glasses with the mask on your face or whatever. That's the first thing. And then also the performers. The performers, at least in Washington, they're still required to wear masks. But that's actually not even the most the more serious thing. That's not the most serious thing. Serious thing. The more serious thing I would say is this uh, just very soft but not so soft push for political ideology in the music school. Now, you can talk about politics in the history of music and how politics affected music. Absolutely, that's part of music history. You can talk about how music history and the evolution of music really pushed a culture into a different direction, historically speaking. That's absolutely appropriate. You could talk about the politics of rock music. You could talk about the politics of big band, and in times like the Prohibition area. You could talk about the politics, at the cusp really the beginning, the commencement of World War One, or the aftermath of World War Two, or things like the Great Depression. That is all very, very appropriate. But what I'm talking about is political leanings, very nefarious, I would say, very nefarious political leanings and administrators taking a side and coercing people who might not have that opinion or who might not even want to take any kind of position. Maybe they want to stay apolitical, maybe they want to stay neutral. And one of the examples that we're seeing this is you know, the diversity and inclusion movement. Now, learning music of a cultural heritage or a country is awesome. It's very important, and I think students need to consider, yes, I'd like to learn more about the music of Ghana. I'd like to learn more about the music of Japan, the instruments, the traditional Japanese music. I really want to explore South America and maybe find a country that, explores music that I really like. What is it about Argentina, or Brazil or something like that? Yeah, explore those things. Explore cultural heritage that is emphasized and dressed and displayed in a musical way, in a performance or in the study of notation of a different region of the world, listening to old recordings in the archives. All of that is really good. Now, I would say if you really wanted to look into, you know, um, the music of Turkey, the traditional music of Turkey, you don't need a degree for that. You can look online, go to the music library, because actually people don't need to be students to go to the music library, the music school library. Listen to recordings at your leisure, at your will, and or just take a trip to Turkey. Spend the money you would otherwise spend, on your education, and go to Turkey for a year and immerse yourself in the culture, and how traditional music of that country worked. So all of that is really, really important. This is not the push they are talking about. This is not the push, their push. This is a different kind of movement. This ideological push is, I would say, not a healthy one, because now professors, scholars are saying how problematic it is to study music history and music theory of Western classical music. That they're saying that Western classical music is a depiction or display of white supremacy. So it's not studying Western classical music and then on top of that studying the music of Tibet, for instance. No, no, no. No, we actually have to get rid in some subversive way, like some subtle way, like kind of like, you know, covert way, to actually, if not get rid of Western classical music, undermine it as a bad thing or as an oppressive thing. Now, there's a couple short, I would say, it's kind of myopic to think that. One is, yes, Western classical music is predominantly Western Europe, some Eastern Europe, but yes, it is Western Europe. Yes, it is predominantly white, but that's not what makes it inherently bad. The second thing is, these professors are having a very American perspective on race and racism toward Europe, and Europe does not have that same perspective. It doesn't have the same history as America. And I don't know all the details, but people in Europe, and I've heard people like in the UK really harangue and get so tired of Americans enforcing their perspective on racial implications and ramifications onto Europe. Europe has a completely different perspective on race than America has. And college professors don't seem to understand that. Instead, they say, you know what? Yeah, studying composers, who grew up in Austria, yeah, that's actually really problematic. Guys, we still study the German composers. Yeah, Germans had a history. Germany, I mean, not Germans. Well, Germans too. Yeah, but does that stop us from studying and loving Beethoven? No. Man, my mouth is so dry. It's the heat and the sinuses. Actually, I think my sinuses are fine. But I really don't like this myopic American view, like, oh, we have this perspective on historical racial implications, and we gotta impose that upon our European fellows over there because they had the same historical and racial problems over there as we have here. It's like, no, professors, you ought to know better. You ought to know better. And I think it's really irresponsible that my music school from Seattle, they're saying how Western classical music, how something like Schenkerian analysis, for goodness sake, is an example of white supremacy. Oh, well, this, he was against Jews or something like that. It's like, well, first of all, I don't really find the importance of Schenkerian analysis anyway. I'm sure it's fine. I took one class. I can't really remember much of it, but it's like, even some people I've seen on YouTube and some professors, they would say, is music theory like a white supremacist topic? I'm like, doesn't have to be. It doesn't. Sorry to get political, but that's another reason why probably you shouldn't go to music school, because it's actually getting less and less about the music itself and about the people surrounding the music. And I'm getting tired of that. This is gonna be probably another topic where it's like it's no longer about the art anymore. It's about people around it and our view of those people and our interpretations of those pieces of work. It's like, no, it's the work itself that's objectively important. Anyway, I probably lost some subscribers for that rant. Let's see, my computer's getting kind of warm. Anyway, let's get back to the chat. Sorry, that was a rant. Incarnate says, "Wow, I would have thought recording and mixing would be considered core classes at this point. I wish, man. I really wish that would be so invaluable. That would be invaluable to the musician and the composer. And composers kind of student composers kind of have to, they're kind of at the mercy of people who do the actual mic placement and mixing. And I feel like most composers, at least on a very basic level, should understand in the live studio setting, if you are recording live music, you should have some, at least the very basic understanding of mic placement and decibel level and gain and distance, and all that. All right. 1 second. I'm still looking at the chat, but I gotta fix something real quick. All right. I'll be on soon. It looks like you guys are Incarnate says, lay this track here, next track below it. Another one here, render and mastered. That'll be 500, please, and thank you. Yeah, what's great about the current mastering engineer, and I highly recommend him for people doing electronic music, especially more eclectic electronic music, is that he gets back to you. He's like, what do you want? How's, this is the first master. He knows your tone. Like, now that I've worked with him for 2.5 years or so, or maybe 3 years now, he knows my tone. He knows, he actually has a template for his artists. So he has a template for me and what I'm going for. And he's very, like, he's wonderfully priced, and he'll get back to me and say, how about this? And then, like, that's what I need here with the brightness, but it's actually a little too much low end here. And then I would actually be specific. We have a really good communication where it's like, okay, track 1 needs this. Track 8 is good, but it needs this here. Pull down the bass just a little bit on track 3 or whatever. And so we have a system, and then he'll go through like 3 or 4 masters on average. He'll send me the last master he sends me before I really release it is like iteration number 4. Yeah, it's really good. So, oh, we have Samuel Meyer. Welcome. I hope I didn't scare you with my political rants. I usually try to be neutral, but we'll try to tone it down as well. But I'm only saying the reason why, you might not want to go to music school. Okay, StreamYard is kind of jumpy right now. Incarnate says, bizarre. I can't imagine writing, composing, or creating for myself. I'm a horrible audience when it comes to stuff that comes out of my mind. Who isn't? You're probably the most critical. I mean, I'll go back to my older tracks, and I'm like, there are a few tracks I actually want to redo because it's like, I just and they're not so popular. I'm not popular on Spotify, but they're my more popular tracks. I'm like, oh man, I wish I could do more, or better. My wonderful professor says, if you have a good MFA program in writing, they will teach you publishing options. Well, that's good. At least you have that option. Jigwa says, so is a music degree worth getting if you want to teach music? So teaching privately or in a studio setting is not completely required. It does look better. I got hired much faster with my degrees, but I have friends who are music teachers in the studio setting who would show their chops saying, hey, I know how to teach and I know how to do my instrument. And so if the studios will say, hey, give me an audition or something like that, they're a lot more lenient. But in the public education, yeah, you have to have a degree. For studios, it's hit or miss. If you're a really capable performer who has a knack to teach, I don't think it's necessary, but I could be wrong. The studios I used to work for, they might say, hey, wait a second, you shouldn't say that because we actually only hire people with degrees. So I could be wrong about that. But would the degree be worth that? No. 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 Mm-mm. The jobs that I have, the teaching jobs that I have, I'm very blessed with. But they are half the dollars per hour is half of what I would actually charge as a private teacher. And I wouldn't have needed a degree for that. Vessel Amala says, YouTubers want education and entertainment content. YouTube itself, YouTubers want that. YouTube itself wants extremely pedestrian entertainers, which is why it favors mainstream media, little risk at the cost of amusement. But the thing is that it's so strange because it's like they have to know that celebrities and people aren't popular like YouTube celebrities are popular, Um, etymology was referring to your background of your moniker, Sound Engraver. It was a bit of an untethered reference, and it might not actually be etymology. Come to think of it, are you thinking of? Wait, etymology. You said etymology, and I read etymology, and I was thinking entomology, right? Whatever, the study of insects, whatever that's called. Yeah, I might have gotten confused myself. Welcome, Samuel Meyer. This all reminds me of my own artistic endeavors. I want to become smarter and accomplish in drawing, writing, and acting, but I fear the college machine. Don't go. Don't go. Save that money. Save that money for equipment. The money I have to pay back for my college education, I could have had a beautiful home studio by now. It's like it's not nice to think about. Save that money for equipment, for tools, for resources, and then if you I would say this. I've said this before. Do invest in private instruction. If you want to become a drawer, let's say you want to draw characters, you got to know how to draw the face. You got to know what goes into drawing, a character's face or the character's hands or the character's feet. And I think private instruction is pretty important when it comes to that. But I'm a music teacher, so of course I think private instruction is important. Thank you. That was probably what was that, 10:27? Yes, 20 minutes later. Etymology. Yeah, I got those confused. Yeah, etymology is the study of history of words. Entomology is the study of insects. They're easy to mix up though, yeah. And they're easy, they're very different specialties. Even though I'm writing stories, do you have any advice on writing music for stories, especially for characters within said story? Do you have any advice on what you say writing music for stories, especially for characters within a story? That's actually really, oh gosh, that you're kind of opening a whole can of worms there. I would say, oh man, you know what, Final Fantasy? That could be its own stream. I, I should just kind of say it in a nutshell. So you're writing for stories and you would want music for those stories, like for characters. Okay, so here's the rundown right now. If you want music, if you want original music for specific characters, the composer must know how to write a melody. They must know how to write a theme for every character or place or idea. So that's the important thing. Now, the second thing is you have to think about genre. You have to think of musical genre and style, and you have to think about the genre you're writing. So, for instance, science fiction and electronic music work very, very well. Not all electronic music works, and that will be probably another stream or another topic. Uh, the Foundation soundtrack, man, and it is Bear McCreary, and it's a beautiful score, but it doesn't sound distinctly like Asimov. It doesn't sound distinctly like Foundation or science fiction. Or it sounds a little like science fiction, but it can also sound like Harry Potter. Anyway, that's a sidebar. Writing stories, writing music for stories, you have to know the genre and style you want. So if you do have a science fiction or speculative or science fantasy genre, electronic music works very well. And I would say it probably even works a little bit better than the orchestra because the orchestra is not really, it's not really tangible. It's not really connected to a science fiction world or science fantasy world, unless or fantasy world, unless you know. Well, orchestra works better for fantasy, like Howard Shore with Lord of the Rings, for instance. Um, if you have, you know, if you have like a fantastical version of a Chinese dynasty, well, you're going to go back to traditional Chinese music. You know, you're going to get that sense, even if it's not strictly traditionally Chinese or even part of that specific dynasty that you're after. You got to have that sense to convey that fantastical Chinese feel. So you would have to consider those options. So start with the basics. If it has to do with specific characters and specific ideas for those characters, the composer must write a music theme. If they don't know how to write a melody, don't ask them to compose your music if it's for a specific person or a character or a place. And then secondly, what is your genre and what musical style fits that genre? You know, what musical style complements that genre? So hopefully that gives you a little bit of uh, a start to that. Yeah, incarnate, you are right. So got confused with those terms. Entomology, etymology. And in my brain, I was thinking, do I have that right when I was talking about it? So that's gonna be embarrassing. Like people on the replay say, that's not the word. Yeah. Well, okay, so here's the irony, incarnate. So you say, ugh, mandates. I remember seeing a picture of a school band all wearing masks with mouth slots cut into it. There are times when I'm embarrassed to be human. So here's the thing. I don't get that. Okay. Okay. So think about it. Anyone with any basic music knowledge knows that brass instruments and wind instruments like the flute, but really brass instruments like trumpet, trombone, it doesn't matter if none of the spittle comes around your mouth. The spittle comes out. In some way or another, it comes out. What do trumpet players do when they're kind of warming up and before they're playing? They blow into their trumpet to kind of get that air out, to get the condensation, whatever is loosened or whatever. Trombone players, they'll take the arm out, or the valve. I can't remember what the trombone arm is called. Sorry, I'm a string player. But then all of that condensation and saliva come out. It's like your mouth is pretty much an extension to a bigger mouth. Unless you mask the trumpet bell, it's not gonna work. I can imagine like a band director just like conducting the band, and he feels the spittle or the spit or something. He's like, I didn't feel that. It's the pandemic. I didn't feel that at all. Oh yeah, and I want to say with Team Ghost Planet saying we both love Japanese music and pop. So uh, who was that? Final Fantasy fan. If your story involves kind of that, you might want to consider, a songwriter who specializes in Japanese popular music. Excuse me. Vessel says the problem is politics has become too personal. When you openly when you openly have who you voted for in your dating profile, I think we've gone too far. I agree a little bit. Now I don't think I think that looks a little clashy, like oh, this is who I voted for. I mean, I would say like what's your political party or what's your political leaning, because I would say I can't imagine a couple being on different sides. Not in today's climate. I've seen it and I don't know how they do it, but I don't know if they have a good relationship. I don't think you should say what president you voted for though, or political yeah, who you voted for, or political office, I don't think that's necessary. Just say, "Oh, I'm liberal, I'm conservative, I'm, right leaning, I'm left leaning." I mean, that's pretty that doesn't clash to me that much. Incarnate says that really puts it in perspective. Live in a country and immerse yourself in the culture for a year, or get 60 credit hours. The 60 credit hours was the general, but it's kind of the same. 60 credit hours on top of all the rest. Yeah. Yeah, go to the country. Like, "Oh, I gotta get an ethnomusicology degree." Like, well, what country are you interested in studying? Well, um, I really love traditional Japanese instruments and music. Well, instead of being here in the United States for 5 years, why don't you at least go to Japan for a year or two, study it there, learn Japanese there, and then actually learn a Japanese instrument with a Japanese instructor, and then come back feeling satisfied. Oh no, the chat jumped again. Oh, all right. Let's see. I'm glad you guys are active and engaging. It's wonderful. It's so wonderful. I hope I never like accrue so many people where like the chat just goes up and up and up, and then I can't talk to you guys. I hope it's at least like a good steady flow. Interesting. I'm getting flashbacks to my film class and my teacher's thinly veiled jabs at cowboy western flicks. So, were you a film student, Samuel Meyer? Why did your name sound familiar? Do I know a Samuel Meyer? Have we met before? Or is this just yeah. I'm sure could be a teacher I've seen. I don't know. But anyway, that's cool. So if you're a film student or an art student, maybe you can relate. Um, I don't know, Incarnate. I've never directed actors, so I would say it's a different breed of specialty. Yeah, actually, I've heard that drawing hands is really hard. Yeah. I haven't drawn anything. My last thing I drew was like Scooby Doo and the gang, and I was actually pretty good at drawing Scooby Doo. I mean, he's easy because like his paws are kind of like, you know, but that's the last. I think I drew. Yeah, I drew like yeah, that's it. I thought I saw something, but it's fine. All right. Uh, duly noted. Thanks for the tip. My college goals. Oh, RN or just a general studies AA. After that, I'll settle for on the job learning. You're probably the smartest fellow when it's coming to pursuing higher education. Yeah, I think you're on the right track. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, notice I'm saying liberal arts degrees. I'm saying music degree, art degree. I don't want to touch the other degrees because I don't know. It's FOTUS and stuff. Hopefully you didn't hear my politics FOTUS. I don't know. I don't know if we agree with the same something. Yeah. Anyway, I can't talk. I guess I get a little flustered when I'm talking politics in public because it's actually not my thing. Like I really should tone it down. But why is the world acting like it is? It's very hard to keep it on the down low. Um. Oh, good. Okay, so Gigawatts giving some vessel. Yeah. Uh, you guys are giving yourself very good information. I gotta keep talking, and you can see like my hair's getting frizzy because it's humid. It's humid. Fotis came in to say hi. All right, did I catch up with chat? I did. I did. So, I think that's all I have to say. I might have skipped some comments because StreamYard doesn't catch all the comments, but we already reached 90 minutes. Wow. So I hope all that made sense. It was kind of off the cuff, and it's kind of important to talk about these things. But I think that was a pretty good stream. Not leaving yet. If you guys have more to talk about, but until I see you guys talk more in the chat, a couple things going on with just what I'm doing with my channel. I have 2 promo videos that I have to do. So I'm going to be doing 2 more music fundamentals video. So I released my first one today on how to read music notes on a music staff. And the next one will actually be reading or how to learn your key signatures. So if you guys are reading music for the first time and you're studying key signatures or playing in keys, it's like, why does this key have 1 sharp? Why does this key have 3 flats? Well, there's a reason for that. Music is an actual numerical mathematical relationship, and key signatures have a reason for there's a reason for why key signatures exist as they do. So my next tutorial video actually won't be so flashy with images. That 7-minute video took hours to make. I'm very proud of it, but oh my goodness, it took so long. Oh man, to line up everything just right, it took forever. It was fun, and I hope it gets a lot of views for that, but it took many hours to edit and write the script and record the script and and write in the credits, promo and stuff like that. So yeah, look for the next video. I don't think I'll finish it by this week. At the very latest, it's going to be published next Monday. So it's going to be key signatures. I will be showing you at least the major key signatures, all the sharps and all the flats. And so if you're interested, and then the final music fundamentals into 2 weeks from now, I think will be modes. What are modes? How do they work? That might be something. So, and then after I'm done with June, after my promo is done, I'm going to go back to SuperCollider, back to Logic Pro, back to composing. I've been so busy with these videos that I haven't really compose as much as I should. So, yeah. I tuned into your stream of yours a time or two. You may have read a comment of mine. I just took a single film humanities class. But you are pursuing RN, I think, an RN, so that's good. That's wonderful. Welcome. Well, I'm glad to have you. I think for my next stream, as you might have seen that I conducted a poll. So this was the result that people wanted. Like, should you get a music degree? For my next stream is I will have. I'd like to talk about Asimov's Foundation. Wonderful science fiction. Don't talk to me about the TV show. Not watching it. Not interested. I'm talking about the book. I really want to talk about the science fiction genre. You know, I want to talk about Asimov, the classic science fiction story and the world, and really some important things that I think writers might find interesting, like to consider for their own story, because we don't really see this in. I mean, we could. I could be wrong. This could be found in Babylon 5 or Star Trek or some of the sci-fi franchises. So I could be mistaken. But you know, you won't see this in like a science fantasy like Star Wars. So I think there are some interesting things to talk about with Asimov, and I really think that's it. So let's catch what Fotis has to say. The track I'm writing for a children's school play is cheesy, big, and loud, and hopefully super heroic. That's cool. It's not very realistic from an orchestral arrangement perspective, but I'm just having fun. That's the way to do it. Just have fun. Good luck on that. That sounds like a great project. That sounds like a wonderful endeavor, and I hope you get a good positive response. That's great. Thank you. We'll end on this note. If you don't C sharp, you'll be flat. So, you know, tune in also for the Professor Geek EU book study, Shatterpoint, with Big Al Presents tomorrow. Prof, if you're still available, if you can confirm the time, I think it's 9:30 is when you start. 9:30 Eastern time. So if you like Star Wars, if you like the EU, he and Big Al are going to start Shatterpoint tomorrow, and I think that will be a lot of fun. Oh, dude, thanks for the clarification. So with that, on that note, I will see you guys later, and until I see you next, keep producing and preserving and promoting the good art that you love, and I'll catch you later. Bye.